She said, "They want to hurt my mom, she is sick. What Hell's Angels did is shocking." The wind carried the sound before it reached the door, a small, hesitant tapping lost in the hiss of winter rain and the metallic rattle of the tin roof. Inside the Birchfield Hell's Angels clubhouse, the night hummed with the low throb of engines cooling after a long ride. Tools clinked, coffee steamed, and the scent of oil and iron clung to the air like a second skin. Nate Stonecarver wiped grease from his hands, half bent over a stripped-down Harley engine. He was a man carved by the road, broad shoulders, face weathered by miles and mistakes. Beside him, Rowdy Flynn, the sergeant-at-arms, stacked canned food for tomorrow's toy run. Then came that knock again. Soft, uncertain, too gentle for midnight. Stone straightened, frowning. "You hear that?" Rowdy glanced up, cautious. "Ain't no wind knocks twice." The two men exchanged a look, the kind of look that carried years of fights and close calls. Stone crossed the floor, boots echoing on concrete, and unlatched the heavy steel door. Neon light from the sign above spilled out across the wet gravel and onto two small figures, two girls, barefoot, pajamas soaked to the knees. Eyes wide as headlights, the older one couldn't have been more than 10. Her hand gripped the younger's wrist like a lifeline. Behind them, fog curled around the parked Harleys, engines ticking in the cold. "Please," the older whispered, breath smoking in the night air. "They want to hurt our mom. She's sick. We didn't know where else to go." For a heartbeat, Stone said nothing. The world had gone silent except for the faint tremor in the girl's voice. Then he crouched down, voice low and steady. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Nora," she said. "And this is June." "All right, Nora, I'm Stone. You're safe now. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Bikers Hype, for more stories of courage, brotherhood, and redemption." Birchfield Crossing slept behind frost-fogged windows, unaware of what destiny had just knocked on that door. Inside, the angels stirred. Rowdy set down a box of cans and grabbed the radio. "Wake the boys," Stone said quietly. "Tell Sawyer to bring the med kit. Trigger, warm up the van." Engines answered in the dark, one by one. Low, reverent growls that sounded more like prayer than noise. Stone draped his leather jacket over June's shoulders. The child disappeared inside it, eyes bright against the black. "You ride with me, kiddo," he said. "We don't leave family in the cold." Outside, headlights cut through fog as the convoy rolled out. The road ahead shimmered wet and dangerous, the air thick with frost and purpose. Nora rode shotgun in the van, pointing the way with trembling fingers. Left at the billboard, the blue trailer by the burned mailbox. Stone nodded, throttle steady. They weren't chasing trouble tonight. They were chasing mercy. The trailer sagged on cinder blocks, half swallowed by weeds. One porch bulb flickered like it was trying to remember how to shine. Stone killed the engine, boots sinking into mud as he approached the door. Through the window he could hear it, the faint, uneven hiss of an oxygen machine struggling against death. Inside, Valerie Pike lay curled on a threadbare couch, knuckles white around a plastic tube. Her breath came shallow, her cheeks ghost gray. Beside her, a pink notice fluttered under the draft. Power disconnected. Delinquent account, stamped with a name Stone didn't recognize. Din Mercer. Sawyer checked the machine, cursing under his breath. Voltage is dead. Oxygen low. Pulse weak. Stone didn't hesitate. He scooped Valerie up, careful but firm. "Let's move. She's done breathing other people's mercy." The angels moved like a practiced unit. Trigger cleared the way. Rowdy hit the hazards. Engines roared back to life, surrounding the van like steel guardians. They rode through the fog with headlights pulsing like a heartbeat. At Birchfield General, the automatic doors slid open to a scene that stilled even the hardest souls. Two girls clinging to Stone's jacket as nurses swarmed around their mother. Valerie vanished behind a curtain of fluorescent light. Stone crouched beside the children. "She's strong," he said softly. "She just needs a little help breathing." Nora bit her lip. "She hums when she cooks. That means she's okay." Stone smiled faintly. "Then we'll get her humming again." The nurses worked fast, no longer seeing bikers, only saviors. Rowdy filled out forms, calm as always. Stone signed the emergency contact line without a blink. Nate Carver, relation, guardian. The attending doctor appeared, voice brisk but grateful. "Severe pneumonia. Oxygen failure. You got her here just in time." Stone nodded once. Lucky, the doctor added. Stone's jaw tightened. No, Luck didn't ride tonight. We did. Outside, the angels stood in the pale wash of dawn. Engines cooling, breath steaming. No words. Just the sound of men keeping silent vigil under a weak morning sky. When Valerie stabilized, Stone watched through ICU glass, color slowly returning to her face, machines humming steady. He didn't realize his hands were shaking until Rowdy pressed a coffee into them. She'll pull through, Rowdy said quietly. You done good, brother. Stone didn't answer right away. His gaze was on the two girls asleep on a bench, heads resting together. Finally he murmured, We just did what we were supposed to. But in his chest, something old and unfinished stirred. A memory of another hospital room, another life he couldn't save, and a promise he'd made then, that his patch would stand for protection first no matter what. When his phone buzzed with an update from the clubhouse, he answered without looking away from the glass. Yeah? Rowdy's voice crackled through. That Mercer guy, collection agent for county utilities. Real piece of work. Known for cutting power early to squeeze payments. Stone's eyes hardened. Then he just cut the wrong line. By sunrise, the angels had a plan. One crew to guard Valerie's kids at the hospital. Another to the trailer, to secure, clean, and prepare it. And one to find Dean Mercer. Rowdy loaded gear into the van. Sawyer packed the med kit. Trigger checked his sidearm. Not because he planned to use it, but because men like Mercer made hope a dangerous thing. Stone rolled his Harley out into the light. The morning air was sharp, full of purpose. He looked back once at the hospital doors where Nora and June waved from the window. He raised a hand, 2 fingers in salute. Then he kicked the starter. Thunder answered. The Birchfield Angels rode again. Not for glory, not for vengeance, but because some roads lead straight to the soul. And tonight had started them down one that wouldn't end until justice and mercy met in the middle. The night had turned to silver dawn, thin light seeping through a world washed clean by rain. Inside Birchfield General, machines hummed like calm breathing. Valerie Pike lay stable in the ICU, oxygen flowing smoothly now that the angels had brought her in. Stone stood by the window, arms folded, watching a nurse adjust the line on Valerie's wrist. The woman was frail, but there was strength in her face, the kind that came from years of working too hard, sleeping too little, and loving too much. Nora and June slept in waiting room chairs, wrapped in Stone's cut and Rowdy's flannel. Outside, engines idled softly in the parking lot, a mechanical heartbeat of protection. Mercer's name came up again, Rowdy said, handing Stone a printout. Debt collector. County utilities contract enforcer. Likes to make examples of poor folks behind on bills. Stone's eyes traced the file. Unlawful disconnections. Threats. Payoffs. The man had a trail of misery behind him like oil stains on pavement. Sawyer walked in carrying 2 coffees. Valerie's chart says oxygen failure from a shutoff 6 hours before we got there. He cut her line knowing she needed that machine. Rowdy's jaw tightened. That's attempted murder where I'm from. Stone took a sip of the bitter coffee, then set it down. No speeches, he said. We fix what's broken, same as a bike. Quiet, clean, permanent. Outside, morning fog rolled low over the parking lot as the angels mounted up. Chrome caught the weak sunlight, throwing back glints like sparks in smoke. Nora and June pressed their palms to the glass as Stone started his Harley. He gave them a wink, a silent promise. Then the convoy moved. Engines rumbled like thunder, waiting for permission to strike. Birchfield was just waking up. Storefronts groaned open. The diner sign buzzed to life, and the scent of bacon drifted through the mist. The angels rode in a tight diamond formation, vests dark against the pale morning. Rowdy spoke through the radio. Mercer's office is listed downtown. North Spur Storage. Unit 18. Private? Stone asked. Private but dirty. Runs his collections out of there. Keeps records in bins. Stone's voice came low. Then we'll bring the light. They pulled into the cracked lot of North Spur Storage, a hive of orange roll-up doors and chain-link fences. Unit 18 sat half open, humming with the sound of a space heater. Inside, Dean Mercer looked up from a stack of papers, startled. He wore a suit that had seen better days, slick hair, gold tie clip. His grin was the kind that made men reach for patience. Private property, Mercer said, standing up. You boys lost. Rowdy stepped in first, calm but unmoving. We're found enough. Stone followed, eyes flat and steady. You cut power to a sick woman, Stone said. She almost died. Mercer's smirk didn't falter. Delinquency is delinquency. Rules are rules. Sawyer dropped a photo of the tagged meter onto the table, the red sticker that had nearly become a death sentence. That's cruelty, Sawyer said. And illegal, Rowdy added, voice edged with iron. Mercer leaned back, trying to look taller. You think you're the law? Stone didn't blink. No, we're the line. The air in the unit thickened. The only sound was the heater clicking nervously in the corner. Stone reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and hit record. You'll fix it, he said. Reconnection today. Fees erased. Written proof. Mercer's jaw worked. And if I don't? Stone's tone stayed soft, almost gentle, which made it worse. Then every cop, reporter, and lawyer in this county will see this footage before lunch. Plus, I'll make sure every biker from here to Missouri knows your name. Mercer's pride flinched first. He looked from Stone to the heater to the red recording light. Finally, he sighed, picked up the phone, and dialed. This is Mercer. Unit 18. Need a reconnection on Pike residence. Immediate. Stone didn't move. And the fees? Rowdy asked. Mercer's eyes narrowed. Waived. Sawyer pulled a notary form from his folder. Sign it. Mercer hesitated. The heater clicked louder. Sign it, or the next knock on your door won't be this polite, Trigger said from the shadows. Mercer signed. Blue ink trembling. Rowdy filmed the timestamp. Sawyer texted the document to county utilities. A reply came seconds later. Override accepted. Power restored. Stone ended the recording. You'll also write an apology letter. To Valerie Pike. Mercer scoffed. Stone just waited. Mercer wrote. 3 shaky sentences that might keep him out of court. When it was done, Stone gathered the papers, nodded once, and turned to leave. At the door, he paused. Word gets around, Mercer. Let it be the right word. He handed the man a printed sheet. Patient protection laws, penalties, fines. Educate yourself, Stone said. Outside, the angel stood in the cold, breath steaming. Rowdy shook his head. Man like that ain't built for decency. Stone looked at the sky where faint snow began to fall. Then we'll teach it by example. They rode back toward the hospital, exhaust pluming behind them like ghostly wings. At Birchfield General, Valerie was awake. Her eyes fluttered open as Nora and June leaned close, smiling through tears. Stone stood by the doorway, silent, watching the reunion he'd fought for. When Valerie saw him, her voice was a rasp. You're the one who came, Stone nodded. You raised 2 brave riders, ma'am. She smiled faintly, tears catching light. Mercer said he'd shut us down again. Stone handed her the notarized letter. Not today. Not ever. Her shoulders loosened. Relief washed over the room like sunlight breaking cloud. Rowdy entered quietly with papers. We filed reports. Social workers looped in. Pantry stocked. Angels will rotate watch till she's home. Sawyer added. Generator installed at the trailer. Safe, secure. Valerie looked at them, bewildered. Why would you do all this? Stone's eyes softened. Because someone once did it for me. He rested 2 fingers over her hand. A quiet oath, then stepped away. Outside, rain began again. A gentle drizzle that cleaned the air. Stone lit a cigarette he wouldn't smoke and stared at the horizon. The town's neon signs flickered back to life in the wet dusk. Everything looked almost peaceful, almost a black pickup truck idled across the street. Engine low, headlights off, watching. Rowdy followed Stone's gaze. You expecting company? Stone's jaw clenched. Not the kind that knocks. He memorized the plates. The shape of the man behind the wheel. And the way the truck rolled away slow. Too slow to be innocent. Something unfinished had found them again. That night at the clubhouse, the angels gathered around the worn oak table. Coffee cups. Rain jackets, maps. Trigger set down his phone. Pickup traced to a Colt Rainer. Ex-bounty. Works muscle for debt collectors. Used to ride before prison. Stone looked up sharply. Mercer's man? Looks that way. The name felt like gravel in Stone's mouth. He'd heard of Colt, a man who followed orders, not conscience. The kind who believed pain was a paycheck. Rowdy exhaled. You think he's the reason Mercer backed down so quick? Stone nodded. Mercer called him after we left. I'd bet my patch on it. Sawyer looked at the girls sleeping on the couch tucked in with Rowdy's blanket. They've been through enough, Stone. Yeah, Stone said quietly. That's why we end it before it starts. Outside, the rain turned to sleet. Engines waited under tarps, glistening like sleeping beasts. Stone stood alone by the door, hand resting on his Harley's tank. He could hear the wind whisper through the pines, the kind of whisper that always carried warning. Engines of mercy, he murmured to himself. That's what we are tonight. He looked toward the hospital lights in the distance, small, steady, defiant. They'll stay on. He started the engine. The sound rolled through Birchfield like thunder, finally remembering its purpose. The fog hadn't lifted by noon. It just learned to pretend. Birchfield's light came thin and colorless. The kind of daylight that made men squint at their own reflections and decide who they were going to be. In the hospital cafeteria, Nora and June swung their legs from plastic chairs while Rowdy showed them how to fold napkins into little birds. Stone stood at the window, watching sleet thread down the glass. Phone pressed to his ear. Say it again, Ruthie, he said. Ruthie Madsen, County Utilities, good woman with a tired voice, didn't mince words. Account was flagged by a private collection override from Dean Mercer. Not policy. I can reverse it, but I'll need someone to assume responsibility so I'm not left holding the bag if the board barks. You got it, Stone said. Name it. Put it under Nate Carver, Birchfield Riders Relief. He glanced back at the girls, softened, then steeled. And Ruthie, you didn't hear this from me, but if anyone, is cutting power to oxygen machines in this county, they're flirting with manslaughter. I know what they're flirting with, Ruthie said quietly. I'll be ready for whatever paper you bring me. Stone hung up and turned to Rowdy. We end this clean. Cameras, signatures, notaries. No roaring. Not today. Rowdy's grin bent sideways. I love when you say no roaring and we both know we're gonna roar. On paper. Sawyer slid in, cheeks windburned from the morning run to the trailer. Generators humming, fresh cord, clean tubing, pantry stocked. I left a list for the social worker to file. Home return criteria, meds refill, space heater safety checks. Valerie's got a shot. Stone clapped his shoulder. Good. Trigger came last, leaning in with that half tilt that meant trouble. Mercer runs 2 nests, polished office downtown. Real business getting done from a rental unit at North Spur Storage. Unit 18. He likes to work where locks hiss. Then we knock where the locks hiss, Stone said. Let's ride. They rolled out low and quiet, exhaust turned down to a murmur that still felt like a heartbeat under the sleet. Birchfield slid by in gray smears, laundromat windows fogged like secrets. A pawnshop neon dragging a red tongue across wet concrete. A church sign that read, Love thy neighbor, even when he owes you. North Spur sat where the town ran out of excuses, by the tracks, rows of orange doors and sodium lamps buzzing like angry bees. Unit 18's roll-up was half open, a rectangle of stale heat spilling onto cold air. A space heater whined near a folding table. Plastic bins towered like orange tombstones labeled with names that should never have been reduced to ink. And Mercer turned when the boots crunched. He looked like a painful handshake. Slick hair, gold tie clip, smile filed to a point. Private property, he said, eyes scanning patches. Bikers don't have business here unless they're paying off a TV they can't afford. Trigger exhaled a laugh that had no humor in it. Sawyer stepped past, scanning forms without touching. Rowdy held up his phone, red light blinking. Stone set his own phone on the table. He didn't raise his voice because men like Mercer hear better when kindness stays calm. You cut power to a medical device, Stone said. Valerie Pike. You didn't just chase dollars, you choked breath. Fix it. Mercer's smile went brittle. Delinquency is delinquency. Tragic, sure, but business is... Sawyer held up a photo. The tagged meter, the pink notice, the oxygen concentrator's dark screen. This is not business. This is cruelty with a clipboard. County Code 14.2. No utility shutoffs for residential medical necessity without a certified review and caseworker notice. You skipped steps because fear pays fast. Mercer's jaw flicked. You boys got a law degree I should know about? Rowdy lifted his hands open, palms easy. No degrees. Just a museum of scars and a library card. He tapped the blinking camera, and a record button with a long battery. Behind the table, a rental clerk peeked and vanished. The heater knocked as if it knew it was outmatched. Stone leaned in, quiet as winter. Reconnection today. Fees erased. Written proof. You're going to call Ruthie at County Utilities right now. Reverse your override, and then you're going to draft an apology. 3 sentences is fine. Humility doesn't have to ramble. Mercer chuckled without mirth. You think you're the law? No, Stone said. We're the line. Minutes stretched across the humming heater. Pride is a stubborn hinge, but behind Stone were men who didn't need to shout to fill a room. Rowdy set a small notary stamp on the table like a chess piece. Sawyer clicked a pen. Trigger photographed names on bins, numbers on ledgers, the sequence of cut notices that outlined a predatory rhythm. Mercer broke first. Pride frayed where fear tugged. Fine, he hissed. He dialed Ruthie, voice turning smooth as oil, promising immediate reconnection. Stone watched his eyes the way a welder watches flame. When the call ended, Rowdy held out a typed memo on a cheap laser printer. Effective immediately. Valerie Pike's utility service is restored. All associated penalties removed. Collection override rescinded. D. Mercer, sign it, Rowdy said. And print your name so your boss can read who saved him from court. Mercer signed. The mobile notary, called by Rowdy the moment they'd turned off the highway, arrived with a damp stamp and a weary nod. The memo landed blue-stamped and real in Stone's hands. Sawyer's phone dinged. He glanced down, then up. Ruthie confirmed. Override reversed, reconnection ticket issued, and a case note filed naming this as wrongful shutoff pending review. Trigger's camera clicked again. He had turned quiet, the kind of quiet that means he'd noticed something meaner. He pointed his lens at a rack of burner phones, a duplicate ledger with columns labeled agreed fear and paid fear. He didn't speak the words out loud. The camera could say them later in front of people who wore black robes to work. Stone slid the stamped memo across Mercer's desk and added a printout. County patient protection codes. Educate yourself, he said. Or change professions. Mercer's gaze sharpened, a snake-tasting air. Careless, he muttered. My collector won't like this. Rowdy's eyebrows rose. Your collector? Mercer's mouth made a mistake. Name's Colt Rayner. The room thinned. It wasn't the temperature. It was the sense that a different kind of weather had entered the story. Stone tucked the memo into his vest. Then tell Colt, he said, voice level, that breath comes first in this county. And men who forget that tend to remember it the hard way. They turned to leave. Behind them, the heater clicked off. The silence it left behind was honest and cold. Outside, sleet had turned to a high, needling rain. The angels stood in it like they were made for weather. Stone sent the memo to Ruthie, to the hospital social worker, to his own cloud archive where lawyers couldn't lose it and fear couldn't burn it. Sawyer texted the home prep list to the volunteer pantry. Trigger sent a shot of the duplicate ledger to a private inbox that woke up reporters when it pinged. Boss, Rowdy said softly. That name, Colt Rayner, ex-bounty, old muscle, the kind that only breathes with purpose. Stone nodded. A slow, inevitable nod that said, then we'll give our purpose lungs. Keep our profile open in daylight, he said. Charity ride stays on schedule. Public and loud. Bullies like shadows. Make them stand in sun to swing. Rowdy's grin showed a chipped tooth and something like joy. So we roar. We roar, Stone agreed. But with the law riding pillion. Back at Valerie's trailer, the generator purred like a big, patient cat. The porch light held steady for the first time in weeks. Inside, Sawyer had taped a laminated emergency list near the phone. Clinic numbers. Social worker extensions, one line at the top in thick black letters. Call Stone. Rowdy bolted a new deadbolt with slow, loud turns that sounded like a promise. Trigger fixed a motion light above the steps that chimed something silly when it woke. A cheerful riff that made June laugh when they tested it later. On the counter sat a small fireproof box with the notarized memo inside. Stone set the box under the sink, behind cleaners and Hope. He stood in the cramped kitchen and read the crayon drawings on the fridge like road signs. Rainbows, a stick family holding hands, a crooked sun that had never given up trying to be round. Love had lived here. Fear had rented month to month. Today, Fear's lease broke. His phone buzzed. Ruthie, service restored. Account note locked. You're burning overtime on my gratitude, Nate. He exhaled in a way that sounded like a man setting down a steel beam. Across the street, a matte black pickup idled for 3 breaths too long, then slid away. Trigger's eyes followed it. He didn't raise the camera. Some pictures needed to wait until the wrong man stepped into the right light. Valerie woke at shift change that afternoon. Color edged back into her cheeks like sunrise negotiating with night. A nurse adjusted Flo, smiled, retreated. Nora's hand was small and fierce around her mother's fingers. June hummed the wobbly song their mother cooked by. Stone stayed back until Valerie's eyes found him. They were tired eyes, but they weren't afraid. "You came," she rasped. He nodded. "You raised 2 riders. They found the right road." She breathed a soft laugh that tried to be a sob. "Mercer said he'd shut us down again." Stone placed the notarized memo in her palm. "Not today. Not ever." Her shoulders loosened like a sail taking wind. Rowdy added quiet mercies from the doorway. Forms complete, social worker looped, pantry scheduled, heat safe, grab bars installed, night checks rotating until discharge. It sounded like a litany and felt like a future. Valerie blinked hard. "Why would you?" Stone's voice came sanded, low. "Because someone once did it for me." He set 2 fingers over hers, 2 beats, a promise, then stepped away. From the parking deck, a figure watched them mount up, then slipped into drizzle. The rain turned heavier and the town's neon smeared itself across the wet in colors that could be forgiven. News doesn't walk in Birchfield. It rides. By early evening, the diner TV carried a local anchor's careful tone. Hell's Angels assist local family amid utility controversy. The room didn't cheer. It didn't need to. People looked down at their coffee and decided whether decency felt like an argument they wanted to have with themselves. Stone stirred his cup and watched the door. Rowdy came back from a call with plates in his pocket and a look that counted exits. "Black Ford," Rowdy said. "No sticker. Out-of-state tag." "The truck from the trailer street." "Same one over by the hospital ramp." "Rayner," Stone said. "Likely," Rowdy answered. "He's nesting. Men like that circle what they missed," Stone set his cup down. "Then we hold the ride tomorrow. Family's close. Cameras out. Sunlight big. If he comes, he'll hate every second of it." A waitress topped off their coffees. She didn't say a word about Patches, just set a plate of pancakes down in front of June when the girls wandered in with the volunteer from Hope House. On the syrup bottle, a cheap diner sticker read, "Be kind, it's cheaper." Stone nearly smiled. The next morning broke with amber stitches across fog. 30 Harleys lined the clubhouse lot like armor, chrome winking under a sky that wanted to be brave. The charity ride banner hung straighter than the men who'd slept 3 hours and called it luxury. Kids in knit hats held cups of cocoa like trophies. Valerie's daughters stood near the sign, small and bright, hands clutching painted cardboard hearts that said, "Thank you," in letters that didn't care if they were straight. Stone crouched to their height. "Your mom good with this crowd?" Nora nodded. "She said to tell you to ride loud." Stone's smile was quick and honest. "We'll make the sky shake." He stood, swung a leg over his Harley, and raised a hand. Engines fired in unison, thunder braided by discipline. It rolled out across Birchfield like proof that a town could still be one song when it mattered. From a rooftop across Maine, Colt Rayner set binoculars to his eyes. The truck idled 2 blocks over, engine damped to a whisper. Through the glass, he watched the convoy snake into motion. He tracked Stone's helmet, centered, visor up. Rayner's breath fogged the lens for a brief, human moment before the wind cleared it. On the diner TV, a crawl read, "Community ride for Hope House today. Expect delays." Inside the diner itself, Valerie watched with her nurse. Oxygen line coiled on the table like a retired weapon. Her hand drifted to her throat. She couldn't name the unease, just a pulse out of rhythm, a chord her body remembered from nights when breath ran thin. 2 miles out near the old overpass, a black pickup merged into formation behind a minivan with crayons melted into its cup holder. The pickup's windows were tinted. The driver's hands were steady. Colt Rayner didn't rush. He was the kind of man who carved time into obedience. On the overpass, a little girl let a balloon go. The string slipped and ran to the sky like it had been practicing. The child took 1 step after it. Stone saw it at the same heartbeat. Rowdy's voice cracked over radio. "Kid, right lane." Stone braked hard and slid the Harley sideways. Muscle memory and mercy married in one clean move. The convoy hissed to a stop, tires singing on wet asphalt. Mothers gasped. The balloon kept going, a yellow dot in a gray world. In the cab of the pickup, a rifle waited on the seat like a choice that could ruin a man. Rayner lifted it and felt a child step into his scope. He stopped. Not because someone told him, because something did. He lowered the barrel. He watched the biker lift the child and hand her back to a mother who had misjudged how far love could see. Applause sparked down the line, thin at first, then fuller as relief found hands. Rayner exhaled like a man pulling a hook from his own lip. He set the rifle down, knuckles white on the wheel. In his rear view, his own reflection looked like a ghost auditioning for mercy. He turned the truck around and melted back into the lane. Rowdy snapped 3 quick photos of the plate as it slid by, then let it go. Stone didn't look after it. He was busy kneeling to a kid's height and telling her what the road had taught him. To watch the wind and keep the people you love where your hands can hold them. They rolled on. No hero speeches. Just engines sinking back to the rhythm that said a town was still allowed to be kind if it wanted to be. By late afternoon, the ride ended in a lot that smelled like rain and relief. Kids hugged leather and learned their hands didn't come away dirty for it. Reporters asked for smiles. Stone gave them one that was half a lesson. His eyes kept straying to the ridge. He didn't fear the man up there. He worried about the story that had made him. When the crowd thinned, Rowdy slid the plate photo across the bar back at the clubhouse. Either he's gone, he said, or he's circling for night. Nesting, Stone answered. Men like him always circle what they failed to finish. Then we go where nests burn cleanest, Rowdy said. Patterson Quarry, Trigger murmured. He'll want empty ground with Echo. Stone nodded once, slow and inevitable. Then we give him Echo. He looked around the room, at Sawyer cleaning grit from under his nails, at Trigger checking a camera battery like it was a rosary, at Rowdy smiling like a man who'd found his punchline. We keep the girls in, he said. We keep the ride receipts straight. We keep the law within reach and our hands open. If Colt Rayner wants to finish the debt Mercer started, he's going to find out we collect in a different currency. Rowdy rolled his shoulders. What's that? Breath, Stone said. We collect breath. And today we're very, very rich. The room didn't cheer. It didn't need to. The men stood and the room learned what resolve weighs. Engines warmed again. Night gathered its nerve. And somewhere beyond the ridge, Colt Rayner sat in his truck and watched his hand stop shaking. He stared at the rifle like it remembered him wrong. Then he turned his key. The engine didn't roar. It confessed. He drove east toward Patterson Quarry, where stone remembers every echo and dust learns every name. The rain eased as if the sky had decided it wasn't needed for what came next. The rain had stopped pretending. By the time the Angels reached Patterson Quarry, it was a cold mist that clung to leather and steel like the breath of ghosts. The old mining pit stretched wide and hollow. Black water pooled where the earth had been carved and abandoned. The place smelled of rust, silence, and things buried under too many apologies. Stone's Harley idled at the ridge, headlights slicing through fog. The others spread behind him in a half circle, their engines humming low. Each man knew what this was, not vengeance, not fury. Something quieter, heavier, mercy's last test. Down below, a single set of headlights glowed against the wall of the pit. Colt Rayner. He stepped out before Stone even moved. Tall, worn from years of wrong roads. He looked like a man who'd built walls around his guilt and was finally ready to tear one down. The rifle was in his hand, but it hung low, not aimed. Not anymore. Stone rode down slow, gravel crunching like bones under tire. He stopped 10 feet away, killed the engine, and the world went still. You could have taken me, Stone said, voice calm as a prayer. You didn't, why? Rayner's breath fogged the cold air. Because the kid ran out. You blocked her car, I saw it. My finger froze. He gave a half laugh that cracked halfway through. Guess I ain't what I used to be. Stone nodded once. Then you're not lost yet. Behind him, Rowdy and Sawyer waited in silence. No weapons drawn. No words wasted. Just respect. For a man standing on the edge of whatever came next. Colt's hands trembled. Mercer hired me months ago. Said a woman owed. Said she had insurance money coming. He cut her power to scare her into selling the trailer. I didn't know she had kids till I saw them that night. He looked up, eyes raw. Then you boys showed up. And I realized I'd been on the wrong side of mercy for too damn long. Stone took a step closer, boots sinking in damp gravel. You got someone sick at home, Colt. The question hit like a hammer wrapped in cotton. Rayner blinked. Brother. Lung cancer. Mercer promised the treatment bills if I kept collecting. He lied, same as always. He kicked a rock, swallowed hard. It's all I had left. Stone's voice softened. Not anymore. He gestured behind him. Rowdy opened the van door. Inside, a small cot, food boxes, 2 spare oxygen tanks, and a folded blanket. Sawyer placed a hand on the edge, steady, wordless. Colt frowned, not trusting what he was seeing. "You'd help me?" Stone shrugged. "Depends if you drop that gun." The rifle clattered to the ground, echoing through the quarry like a confession. Rayner's knees nearly followed it. "I didn't want to kill you," he said. "I just didn't stop myself from becoming the kind of man who could." Stone stepped close enough that the mist turned both their outlines into ghosts. "Then stop now. That's what makes you different." The air thickened. Rain softened to drizzle again, as though even the sky was waiting for what came next. Rowdy picked up the rifle carefully, unloaded it, then set it on the hood of Colt's truck, far enough away to prove trust, close enough to remind them what choices weigh. Sawyer called the sheriff. One suspect surrendered voluntary. No shots fired. The reply came through the static. "Understood. I'll meet you at dawn." Colt exhaled like the air had been waiting years to escape. "You're turning me in?" Stone nodded. "You walk out on your own feet. That's the difference between consequence and mercy." Colt's eyes glistened, not from rain. "And after?" Stone looked at him long, steady. "After, you help the sheriff build the case. You tell them Mercer ordered every shutoff, every threat. You testify." "You make it right," Rayner nodded. "Then I'm ready." Stone offered a hand. Colt hesitated, then took it. Two men, one who'd spent his life protecting others, one who'd spent his life breaking them, stood in the middle of a forgotten quarry, and for the first time in years, neither felt alone. By dawn, the convoy rolled back toward Birchfield, engines low, headlights dimmed, the road steaming under early light. The sheriff's cruiser met them halfway, blue and red lights cutting through fog like judgment softened by grace. Colt stepped forward. "I'll testify," he said quietly. "Mercer paid for shutoffs, said fear was cheaper than debt." The sheriff scribbled notes, jaw tight. "That'll do, son." He looked to Stone. "You're still not trying to play the law, are you?" Stone half smiled. "No, Dean, just reminding it how to breathe." Colt turned, cuffs ready but unforced. "You'd protect that woman even now?" Stone met his gaze. "She's already paid enough." The patrol car door closed with a sound that was almost gentle. The angels stood silent as the sun rose behind the ridge, painting their vests gold. Rowdy finally broke the still. "You ever wonder why we keep doing this?" Stone looked east where the first light touched Valerie's trailer, the porch light still glowing, steady. "Because the world keeps forgetting kindness," he said softly. "And someone's got to remind it." By midday, the town gathered at the fairgrounds. Picnic lights strung between flagpoles, the smell of wet grass and engine oil mixing like old perfume. Kids ran barefoot, chasing kites made from grocery bags. Chrome gleamed under the sun, each Harley like a mirror for heaven. Valerie stood on the small bandstand, microphone trembling in her hand. Oxygen tubes gone now, cheeks full of color. "2 nights ago," she began, voice catching, "I was losing my breath. Today I'm standing here because strangers refuse to stay strangers." The crowd fell quiet. "They wear leather, not halos," she said, tears shining. "But they showed my daughters what real angels look like." Applause rolled like thunder across grass and chrome. Stone shifted awkwardly, eyes down. Rowdy elbowed him, grinning. "You're allergic to gratitude, boss." Then June climbed the stage, clutching the mic with both hands. "They made my mama breathe again," she said proudly. Laughter, then more applause. A few cameras flashed, but Stone's eyes found only his brothers, men who'd seen the worst in people and still chose to believe in better. That night, when the fairgrounds emptied and the engines cooled, Stone rode to the ridge above Birchfield. The town lay below, quiet, peaceful, small lights glowing in the distance like stars that refused to quit. Rowdy joined him with 2 cups of coffee. "You ever think we'll stop chasing trouble?" Stone smirked. "We don't chase it. We just meet it halfway." They sat in silence for a long time, listening to the wind comb the trees. Down the hill, Valerie's porch light burned steady, a tiny flame against a big dark world. Stone tilted his head. "You ever notice how the loudest engines come from the quietest hearts?" Rowdy chuckled. "You're getting poetic in your old age." Stone smiled faintly. "Nah, just listening better." He kicked the starter. The Harley rumbled to life, not angry, not wild, just sure. The convoy followed, tail lights glowing red through the dark like embers drifting toward dawn. Above Birchfield, the sky cleared clean, infinite forgiving. If this story moved you, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Bikers Hype. Share it with friends and keep the light burning, because somewhere under every patch and helmet, there's still a heart beating for good. Ride safe, ride true.